Nathan Pierce thrived on control over his business, his image, and his future. In precisely 3 weeks, he would ensure that even his past was framed exactly how he wanted it. "Sir, your 3:30 appointment with the wedding planner is about to begin," his assistant's voice came through the intercom, crisp and professional. Nathan checked the Audemars Piguet watch on his wrist before shifting his gaze to the Elite Business Weekly magazine on his desk. His own face stared back at him, a symbol of power and success, his name printed beneath the words, "The man who built an empire." "Tell her I'll be there in 5, he replied, exhaling slowly as he loosened the top button of his dress shirt. The upcoming wedding should have been just another calculated move in his perfectly structured life. Instead, it felt like something heavier. His thoughts were interrupted when the door swung open without warning. Evelyn Harper, his fiancée, entered with effortless confidence, the click of her designer heels echoing through the office. A fitted emerald dress hugged her slender frame, and the scent of Chanel No. 5 trailed in her wake. "Nate," she said smoothly, perching herself on the edge of his desk. "We have a problem." He barely looked up. "Which is?" "The guest list." Her perfectly manicured nails tapped against the mahogany surface. "I thought we finalized it yesterday." "We did." "Then explain why your ex-wife's name is still on it." That finally made him glance up. A slow, calculated smirk curved his lips. "Because," he said, voice dripping with certainty, "I want her to see exactly what she walked away from." Evelyn raised a perfectly sculpted brow before letting out a delighted laugh. "That's petty." Then, after a pause, "I love it." 6 years had passed since Charlotte Reynolds had left him. Back then, he had nothing except a relentless drive and a business that was still in its infancy. She had told him he was too obsessed with work, too emotionally unavailable, too unwilling to choose her over his ambitions. Now he was worth billions. Now he was marrying a woman younger, polished, and perfectly suited for his world. Charlotte needed to see what she had lost. "The wedding planner is waiting," his assistant reminded him through the intercom. Nathan stood, adjusting the cuffs of his custom Tom Ford suit. "Tell her I'm on my way." Evelyn studied him with amusement. "You never talk about Charlotte," she mused. "Was it really that bad?" His jaw tightened slightly. "She left just when Pierce Global Holdings was about to take off. Said I was emotionally unavailable, that I cared more about my company than building a life with her." His voice was even, detached. "Now look where that dedication got me." Evelyn leaned in, pressing a slow kiss to his cheek. "It got you me," she whispered, "and a picture-perfect wedding in 3 weeks." By the time they stepped into the conference room, the wedding planner was already fussing over floral arrangements and seating charts. Nathan barely paid attention to the expensive decor options. His focus was elsewhere, on Charlotte and the way she had hesitated at the door that night, as if there was something left unsaid. "Mr. Pierce?" The wedding planner's voice snapped him back. His gaze dropped to the seating chart. "Put Charlotte Reynolds at table 5. The planner hesitated. "Table 5 is where she'll have the perfect view of everything she gave up." Evelyn's fingers squeezed his arm slightly. "You're sure about this?" Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered over a number he had long since deleted, but never truly let go of. "Absolutely," he murmured. "In fact, I think I'll deliver the invitation myself." Evelyn's laughter filled the room. "Now that I'd love to see." But Nathan wasn't paying attention to her anymore. His mind had drifted back to Charlotte's last words to him the night she left. "One day, Nathan, you'll understand what really matters. I just hope it won't be too late." He clenched his jaw. She was about to find out exactly what mattered to him. His empire, his success, his future. And if she thought walking away had been the right decision, she was about to realize just how spectacularly wrong she had been. As he pulled into the quiet Maplewood Estates neighborhood, the past came rushing back like an uninvited guest. Charlotte's house still looked exactly the same, but everything else was about to change. Charlotte's quaint, 2-story home stood out in the quiet suburban neighborhood, its deep green front door framed by overflowing flower boxes. It was exactly the kind of place she would live, charming, warm, and annoyingly picturesque. Nathan killed the engine of his black Aston Martin, fingers tightening around the wedding invitation resting on the passenger seat. He had imagined this moment countless times, picturing Charlotte's expression when she saw it. Would she regret leaving? Would she pretend not to care? A small bicycle lay abandoned in the front yard. Strange. Charlotte had never wanted kids, or at least, she had never mentioned it. Shaking off the thought, he stepped out of the car, straightened his Armani suit and rang the doorbell. The chime hadn't changed. Coming. Her voice. Familiar. Soft. A second later, the door swung open, and there she was. Charlotte Reynolds still had the same hazel eyes he used to get lost in, but her hair was shorter now, framing her face in soft waves. She looked good. Too good. Nathan? She blinked, clearly not expecting him. Charlotte. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. Instead, he pulled the cream-colored envelope from his pocket. Special delivery. She hesitated before taking it. Confusion flickered across her features as she unfolded the elegant cardstock. "You're getting married?" she murmured, reading the date. "In 3 weeks," he confirmed smoothly. To Evelyn Harper. You might know her, 3 million followers on social media. If he had been hoping for a reaction, he didn't get one. Instead, Charlotte's brows knitted together, not in jealousy, but concern. "Congratulations," she said carefully. There was no sarcasm in her voice, no bitterness, only something unreadable. Before he could analyze it, a loud crash sounded from inside the house, followed by laughter. Children's laughter. Charlotte's head snapped toward the noise. "Boys, what did I say about playing ball inside? Boys?" Nathan's spine stiffened. He tried to glance past her into the house, but she shifted, blocking his view. "Thanks for the invitation," she said quickly. "I'll think about it." But his mind was already racing. Boys. Plural. "You have kids?" His voice was even, but there was a sharp edge beneath it. Charlotte hesitated, just for a second. "My sons." His stomach turned. "Sons?" Before she could answer, a voice from inside called out. "Mom, Tommy took my controller." Another voice chimed in. "Did not. Daniel's lying." Then a third. "Both of you, time out." Nathan's world tilted. 3 voices, 3 distinct boyish voices. Charlotte swallowed, gripping the edge of the door like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I should go," she said firmly. "Good luck with the wedding." And before he could say another word, she shut the door in his face. Nathan stood frozen on the porch, his pulse thundering in his ears. 3 boys, their voices, their names. He climbed back into his car, hands gripping the steering wheel, mind racing with calculations. 6 years since she walked away. If Charlotte had been pregnant when she left, no, she would have told me, wouldn't she? Yet, as he drove away, that thought refused to leave him. Because when she read his invitation, Charlotte hadn't looked annoyed. She hadn't looked nostalgic. She had looked afraid. Inside the house, Charlotte leaned against the closed door, heart pounding. "Mom, is he gone?" Michael peered around the corner, his identical blue eyes filled with curiosity. She nodded, fingers still gripping the now wrinkled invitation. "Back to your homework, sweetheart." But it was too late. The 3 boys had already gathered in the hallway, forming a protective circle around her, their gazes full of unspoken questions. "Who was that man?" Thomas asked, frowning. "Just someone I used to know," Charlotte managed. Daniel, always the most perceptive, cut straight to the point. "Was that our dad?" The words landed like a blow. Charlotte sank onto the staircase, and in an instant her sons crowded around her, instinctively shielding her the way they always did. 6 years. 6 years of careful planning, of keeping them safe, of building their world without Nathan Pierce in it. And now, one impulsive visit had shattered that careful distance. She exhaled slowly, then, finally, nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "That was your father." Michael swallowed hard. "Does he know about us?" Charlotte pulled them into a tight hug. Not yet. But deep down, she knew. He was going to figure it out soon. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. "Claire." A single message flashed across it. "Emergency. Call me." Her stomach dropped. Claire worked in Pierce Global's PR department. News traveled fast. "Boys, start your homework," she said, her voice as steady as she could make it. Then she headed to her small home office, bracing for what was coming next. Surrounded by stacks of 4th-grade spelling tests that needed grading, Charlotte pressed her phone to her ear, her free hand rubbing her temple. "He showed up at my house, Claire." Her sister barely had time to respond before Charlotte continued, "With a wedding invitation." There was a beat of silence. Then, Claire sighed. "I know, He's been parading this engagement all over the company, acting like marrying Evelyn Harper is some kind of grand victory. Charlotte watched through the window as her sons kicked a soccer ball across the backyard. Their laughter rang through the air, bright and carefree. She was happy. Nathan Pierce getting married shouldn't change that. So don't go, Claire suggested. Ignore him, keep things simple. Charlotte swallowed. It's not that simple. Why? Because you're afraid of what he'll say? Claire pressed. Or because you know that the second he sees them, he'll know? Charlotte's grip on the phone tightened. He invited me to humiliate me, Claire, to prove he's moved on, that he has the perfect life. He doesn't deserve to know them. Maybe not, Claire hesitated, but maybe they deserve to know him. Charlotte exhaled shakily, her gaze drifting back to the yard. Michael, ever the leader, was helping Daniel up after a fall, while Thomas rushed over, already pulling a Band-Aid from his pocket. Always prepared, just like she taught them. Claire's voice softened. You've raised them alone for 10 years, Char. You've protected them, given them everything. But are you protecting them or protecting yourself? Charlotte hated that her sister could see through her like that. She had spent a decade making sure Nathan never found out. But now, fate or arrogance had put them on a collision course. And maybe it was time. You're right, she admitted finally, but I'm not going to let him hurt them. Of course not, Claire agreed. But you know, Nathan, once he realizes the truth, do you really think he'll walk away? Later that night, Charlotte found the boys huddled around her laptop, their heads close together. Mom, is this him? Michael called out. On the screen was a headline from Business Insider. Nathan Pierce, tech mogul, billionaire, soon-to-be husband. Charlotte's stomach twisted. They were looking him up. She hadn't prepared for this. She glanced at her sons, at their father's dark hair, his sharp blue eyes, the same determined set of his jaw. It was time. She drew a breath. Get your suits ready, boys. 3 sets of eyes widened. Why? Thomas asked. Charlotte smiled faintly, heart pounding. We're going to a wedding. The invitation sat open on her desk. Nathan Pierce and Evelyn Harper, request the honor of your presence. She traced the embossed lettering with her fingertips. They had no idea what kind of company was coming. Mom, Michael's hogging the mirror again. Thomas's voice echoed down the hallway. Am not, Michael shot back. Daniel's the one fixing his hair for 20 minutes. Charlotte juggled 3 identical lunchboxes while stepping around the storm of backpacks and sneakers that cluttered the kitchen. Bus leaves in 10 minutes, gentlemen. At 10 years old, the boys were already forming their own personalities despite their identical features. Michael, the eldest by 4 minutes, adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror. Tommy, yours is crooked. Stop mothering us, Thomas muttered, but let him fix it anyway. Daniel, the youngest, barely looked up from his tablet. Did you know Dad's company was worth nothing when he started it? Charlotte froze. She turned, nearly dropping the lunchboxes. Where did you read that? Daniel held up the screen. The internet. Michael frowned. He built it from scratch, just like you tell us to do with our projects. Charlotte let out a slow breath. 3 days. It had only been 3 days since Nathan's unexpected visit, and already they were obsessed. She had caught them watching his TED Talks, reading interviews, learning about Pierce innovations like it was their personal history. Michael hesitated. Mom, why didn't you tell him about us? The room went quiet. Charlotte set down the lunches. She had been waiting for this question. It's complicated, sweetheart. We're not babies, Thomas insisted. We can handle complicated. Charlotte pressed her lips together, debating. Could they? She took a slow breath. Your father was brilliant, but he was also consumed. When we were together, he worked 18-hour days, missed holidays, birthdays. He was focused on building his company, and She swallowed. I wanted a family. Daniel didn't look up. But he's successful now. Success means different things to different people. Charlotte forced a smile, checking their backpacks. I wanted something different. Michael's voice was quieter. Now he's getting married. Thomas nodded. To someone named Evelyn Harper, Daniel added. She's an influencer. Michael smirked. With really white teeth. Charlotte snorted. Have you boys been stalking your father's fiancée? They exchanged guilty looks. Busted. Charlotte exhaled, shaking her head as she ushered them toward the door. Get to school, you little spies. But as she watched them pile into the school bus, one thought lodged itself in her mind. Nathan was finally about to discover the truth. And this time, there was no going back. "We just wanted to know," Michael defended, crossing his arms as the school bus idled at the curb. "About our other family." Charlotte sighed, brushing a hand over his neatly combed hair. "We'll talk tonight," she promised. "And about the wedding." 3 sets of identical eyes lit up. "We're going?" Thomas asked, bouncing on his toes. Charlotte smiled. "We'll see." She hugged each of them before watching them climb onto the bus, still huddled in whispered conspiracy as they took their seats. As the bus pulled away, she reached into her coat pocket, fingers brushing against the crumpled invitation. It was time to RSVP. Pulling out her phone, she dialed. "Claire, it's me. Tell me everything you know about this wedding." Through the window, she saw the boys still deep in discussion, already planning what to wear, what to say, how to meet the father they'd spent years wondering about. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she typed the response. "Charlotte Hayes plus 3 guests will attend." Let the countdown begin. The Imperial Grand Hotel was alive with energy, its grand ballroom glittering with gold chandeliers and the low hum of conversation. Nathan Pierce stood at the center of it all, accepting handshakes, congratulations, and calculated smiles. Nearby, Evelyn Harper worked the room with practiced charm, seamlessly discussing investments with venture capitalists who were eager to tie their names to Pierce Innovations. The wedding planner flitted beside Nathan, gushing about flower arrangements and seating charts. "Everything is perfect," she said. "The guest list is—" Nathan wasn't listening. His gaze kept flickering to the entrance. Charlotte hadn't RSVP'd, but something told him she'd come. "Nathan," Evelyn's voice pulled him back. "The Rothschilds want to discuss their investment." He nodded, slipping on his CEO smile and turning toward the investors. Then it happened. First, a few whispers, then a ripple of murmurs, and finally, dead silence. Nathan turned, following the room's collective gaze to the entrance. Charlotte stood there, poised and elegant in a simple navy blue dress. But it wasn't her that silenced the crowd. It was the 3 boys standing beside her. Identical suits, blonde hair neatly combed, his hair, his eyes, his face, times 3. Beside him, Evelyn's grip on her champagne flute tightened. "Oh my God." Nathan's breath caught. The boys moved in unison, flanking Charlotte like small strategic bodyguards. The shortest one clutched a book to his chest, gaze sharp and thoughtful. The middle one stood straight, chin high, defiant. The tallest scanned the room, his expression calculated, so eerily familiar that Nathan felt the ground shift beneath him. Charlotte's voice was steady. "Hello, Nathan." His throat was dry. "Charlotte? Congratulations on your engagement." A sharp crack echoed through the ballroom as Evelyn's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floor. No one moved. No one even breathed. Charlotte placed a hand on the tallest boy's shoulder. "Michael." She gestured to the next. "Thomas and Daniel." She met Nathan's gaze. "Your sons." The world tilted. Nathan gripped the nearest chair, his knuckles white. "That's impossible," Evelyn snapped, turning to him. "Nathan, tell her this is impossible." But Nathan wasn't listening. He was counting backward. 6 years. Charlotte's sudden weight gain, which she had blamed on stress. The way she had hesitated that day, standing in the doorway as if she had something important to say. And he hadn't noticed. Charlotte's voice was quiet but firm. "I found out the day after I left." Nathan's pulse thundered in his ears. "You were in the middle of your biggest funding round. You made it clear you couldn't afford any distractions." Distractions. The words sliced through him, sharp and cruel. His voice cracked. "They're my children." Michael, the tallest, lifted his chin. "We're 10. We like coding," Thomas added, "and soccer, and books." Daniel, the one with the novel, spoke up. "And we've read everything about you." Nathan staggered back, 3 pairs of identical blue eyes watching him with equal intensity. Evelyn let out a sharp laugh, stepping forward. "This is ridiculous. We'll need DNA tests, lawyers." Charlotte interrupted smoothly, pulling a folder from her bag. "Already done." She handed it over. Birth certificates, medical records, DNA results. Every piece of proof laid out in black and white. Somewhere in the ballroom, the wedding planner fainted. Nathan barely noticed. He couldn't stop staring at the boys, his sons, and they were staring back. Waiting. Charlotte took a slow step forward. "We should talk, Nathan." Her voice was softer now, no longer challenging, but offering. "All of us." The last thing Nathan saw before his world went completely dark was Evelyn storming out of the ballroom, and 3 small hands reaching for him as he fell, moving in perfect sync, just like he had trained his coding teams to do. "Drink this." Charlotte pressed a glass of water into Nathan's hand as he sat slumped in a private lounge off the main ballroom. Far from the shock, far from the whispers, far from the camera phones. The boys sat across from him, watching, waiting for their father to say something. And for the first time in his life, Nathan Pierce had no idea what to say. Nathan sat on the leather couch, staring at the 3 boys across from him. Perfectly lined up, perfectly still. It was like looking at his own childhood photos, but in triplicate. His throat felt dry. "How long were you planning to keep this from me?" Charlotte didn't hesitate. "Originally, forever." She sat beside their sons, her voice steady but firm. Nathan exhaled sharply, running a hand over his face. "I invited you to the wedding to hurt you." Michael, the eldest, lifted his chin. "We know." Nathan blinked. "You know? We read about your company," Thomas added matter-of-factly. "Mom told us you chose that over family." Nathan flinched. "Is that what you told them?" He turned to Charlotte. Her expression didn't waver. "Only the truth, that you were building something important, and I made a choice not to complicate that." The door burst open. Evelyn stood in the doorway, her makeup slightly smudged, her expression a mix of shock and barely contained rage. "The guests are leaving. This is a disaster," Nathan sighed. "Vic, please. Don't Vic me," she snapped. "You have 3 children you never told me about." Nathan clenched his jaw. "I didn't know." Thomas raised a brow. "Is she always this dramatic?" he asked, deliberately loud. Daniel snickered behind his book. Even Charlotte hid a small smile. Evelyn's face turned red. "I can't. I need time to think." She spun on her heel and stormed out. The silence that followed was thick and unsteady. Nathan let himself really look at his sons for the first time. Michael, the protective one. Thomas, the bold one. Daniel, the quiet observer. 6 years of memories he'd never have. His voice was rough when he finally spoke. "The wedding's in 2 weeks. We know." The boys responded in unison. Nathan exhaled. I need to process this," Charlotte nodded, standing. "Of course. Boys, say goodbye to your father." "Father." The word hit him like a physical blow. Michael stepped forward first, extending a polite, firm handshake. "Nice to meet you, sir." Thomas gave a lazy wave. "Your coding architecture for Pierce Innovations is solid. Could be better, though." Daniel simply nodded, gripping his book tighter. As they turned to leave, something panicked inside Nathan. "Wait," his voice cracked. "What's your—" He exhaled sharply, steadying himself. "Your favorite things? I want to know everything." Charlotte paused at the door. "Why don't you come by tomorrow?" Her voice was softer now. "We can talk. Properly, all of us." Nathan nodded, unable to find words. After they left, he sat alone in the empty room, staring at his own reflection in the window. 3 boys, 3 perfect, brilliant boys, who had grown up without him, because he'd been too absorbed in his empire to notice what he was losing. His phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. "Wedding postponed. Need space." For the first time in his life, Nathan Pierce had no plan, no strategy, no clear path forward. And somehow, that terrified him less than the thought of losing his sons again. Charlotte stepped onto the back porch, pulling her sweater tighter around herself as the cool night air wrapped around them. "They're asleep." Nathan sat on the wooden steps, staring up at the night sky. "They're incredible." His voice was full of something unfamiliar. Wonder, regret, awe. "Michael beat me at chess." Charlotte smirked. "He beats everyone at chess." Nathan let out a breathless chuckle. "Thomas hacked my phone." "He does that. And Daniel hasn't put down that quantum physics book I brought him." Charlotte's lips twitched. "They're definitely your sons." Nathan turned to her, his expression serious now. "Why didn't you tell me?" Charlotte was silent for a long moment, watching the fireflies flicker across her small garden. "Do you remember the week before I left?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "I was closing a major funding round." Charlotte nodded. "I tried to tell you I wasn't feeling well. 3 times. Nathan froze. She continued. "But every time you were on a conference call." Nathan swallowed hard. And the morning I found out I was pregnant," Charlotte said softly. "You had that big presentation." She turned to face him. "You told me, and I quote, 'Nothing can distract me today. The future of Pierce Innovations depends on it.'" Nathan felt like he'd been punched. Charlotte exhaled. So I made a choice. Your company or our baby? Nathan's chest tightened. That's not fair. Charlotte's gaze was steady. No, it wasn't. She looked away, her voice quieter now. Not to you. Not to them. Nathan slumped back against the porch railing that's staring at the stars. His voice was barely a whisper. I would have changed. Charlotte tilted her head, her expression unreadable. Would you? Nathan met Charlotte's gaze, the weight of her question pressing down on him. Be honest, Nathan. If I had told you back then, what would you have done? He wanted to give her the right answer, but as he thought about his younger self, the man obsessed with success, hell-bent on proving the world wrong, he knew the truth. I don't know. Charlotte's lips pressed into a thin line. I do. Nathan swallowed. You would have thrown money at the problem, set up trust funds, hired nannies, scheduled quality time between board meetings. Her voice wavered slightly, but she pushed through. But they needed a parent, not a portfolio manager. The words hit him harder than any boardroom attack ever had. And now, he asked quietly, what do they need now? Charlotte tilted her head toward the door. Why don't you ask them? 3 distinct thumps followed by the sound of scrambling confirmed her suspicion. Nathan blinked, then let out a surprised laugh. They're definitely my sons. Charlotte smiled softly. Yes, Nathan, they are. The question is, are you ready to be their father? Nathan opened his mouth, but before he could respond, his phone buzzed. Victoria. Charlotte glanced at the screen, her expression unreadable. You should take that, she murmured. Sounds like you have some decisions to make. She left him on the porch, alone with his thoughts. Nathan stared at his phone, then at the stars above. He had spent his life chasing a legacy, and now he realized he'd nearly lost the most important part of it. Sir, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes. His assistant's voice crackled through the speaker. Nathan adjusted his rearview mirror, watching as the elementary school doors swung open. Cancel it. Sir? The quarterly projections? Tom can handle it. His assistant sputtered. But the investors? I'm taking my sons to lunch. Before his assistant could object, Nathan hung up. At that moment, 3 identical figures burst down the steps, their faces lighting up as they spotted his car. Shotguns yelled. No way, Michael protested. I'm the oldest by 4 minutes. Meanwhile, Daniel simply slipped into the back seat, already engrossed in a book. Nathan chuckled. Everyone gets a turn. Michael today, Thomas tomorrow, Daniel after. Fair? The boys nodded in unison. Fair. At the burger joint they had chosen, Nathan watched them devour their food, their endless curiosity firing off questions between bites. Did you really code your first program at 8? Thomas asked, mouth full of fries. Nathan smirked. 7, actually. It was just a simple game. Mom says you met at a tech conference, Michael added. Nathan laughed, remembering. She was presenting an educational software project. Completely destroyed my presentation. Daniel looked up from his book, his voice quiet but pointed. Are you still getting married? The question hung in the air. Nathan set his burger down. Victoria and I are taking some time apart. Michael frowned. Because of us? Nathan shook his head firmly. No, because I need to figure out my priorities. Thomas raised a brow. Mom says that's what made you split up before. Bad priorities. Nathan paused. His sons were young, but they saw everything. Your mother was right about a lot of things. Daniel mumbled. She usually is. Nathan's phone buzzed again. Another crisis at work. Another board member demanding his attention. For the first time in his career, Nathan turned the phone off. Later, as he dropped them back at school, a strange feeling settled in his chest. Peace. No stock prices screaming in his head. No acquisition deals demanding attention. Just 3 boys waving goodbye, ice cream stains on their shirts. His assistant was probably having a meltdown. The board was likely in chaos. Victoria had left 3 voicemails. But for the first time in his life, Nathan Pierce knew exactly where he needed to be. And they were walking back into school, arguing over who got shotgun tomorrow. Victoria found Nathan in his home office later that evening, standing over 3 open laptops displaying youth soccer schedules. This is what you've been doing? She picked up a youth baseball catalog, her voice laced with disbelief. While our wedding plans fall apart, Nathan minimized the screens, rubbing his temple. We need to talk. Victoria folded her arms. About your secret family, or about how you've missed every rescheduling meeting with the... Victoria. His tone stopped her mid-rant. He exhaled. I need time to figure out who I am when I'm not just Nathan Pierce, CEO. Victoria scoffed. And what? You think you're suddenly Nathan Pierce, perfect dad? You barely know them. Nathan met her gaze. Then I need to change that. She studied him for a long moment, searching for something. Then her jaw clenched. I should have known. He frowned. Known what? Her voice was sharp, her eyes cold. That the only thing you'd ever truly love is something you built yourself. She tossed the catalog onto the desk, turned on her heel, and walked out. Nathan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. For years, he had convinced himself that his company was his legacy. But as he glanced back at the youth soccer schedule, his mind drifted to 3 boys with his eyes, his determination, his fire. And he realized they weren't just his sons. They were his real legacy. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't going to let them down. I've been patient, Nathan. Victoria's voice was sharp, arms crossed as she leaned against his desk. I gave you space to process everything, but it's been 3 weeks. Nathan exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. And I need to know where I stand. Victoria, they're not a situation. They're my sons. Sons you just met, she shot back. Sons who were kept from you. Doesn't that make you angry? Nathan leaned back, studying her. At first, yes, but Charlotte was right about who I was back then. Victoria's expression faltered slightly. And now? Who are you now? Nathan glanced at the youth soccer schedules scattered across his desk, the science fair flyer pinned to the corkboard. I'm trying to be both. She let out a hollow laugh. Both? She gestured around the room. You've canceled 3 board meetings this week. The acquisition deal with Nexitech is in limbo. The press is having a field day. Investors are panicking. Nathan shrugged. The company will survive. Victoria's gaze sharpened. Will our relationship? Silence stretched between them. Nathan met her eyes. That depends. Can you accept that my priorities have changed? Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. Change? She finally echoed. They haven't just changed, Nathan. They've completely reversed. You used to say nothing was more important than Pierce Innovation's future. I was wrong. Victoria's jaw tightened. Were you? She gestured at the luxury around them. Look what that drive built. Look at everything we have. A life built on workaholism and missed opportunities, Nathan countered, standing up. And I won't miss any more. Victoria stopped pacing. For the first time, he saw something other than frustration in her expression. So you're choosing them? Nathan inhaled slowly. I'm choosing to be their father. Over being my husband? Over being the man you fell in love with? He corrected gently. Because that man, he wouldn't have been a good father. And I'm not sure he would have been a good husband either. Victoria's shoulders slumped. Slowly, she pulled off her engagement ring and placed it on his desk. Goodbye, Nathan. She hesitated at the door, looking back just once. For what it's worth, those boys are lucky. This version of you? He might actually be worth having as a father. As the door clicked shut, Nathan let out a breath. Then, he turned back to his desk. 3 different teams had openings. His sons would need uniforms, cleats, shin guards. His phone buzzed. Charlotte, boys want to know if you're still coming to their science fair tomorrow. Nathan smiled, already clearing his calendar. Some choices made themselves. The numbers don't lie, Nathan. Tom, his CFO, slid the quarterly report across the sleek conference table. Pierce Innovations has lost 15% in market value since news of your personal situation broke. Nathan scanned the report, barely acknowledging the tension hanging in the boardroom. 8 executives sat across from him, their expressions ranging from concern to outright disapproval. Personal situation? He repeated, setting the report down. You mean my children? Patricia from legal cleared her throat. The timing is unfortunate. With the Nexitech acquisition. My sons are not unfortunate timing, Nathan interrupted, his voice turning to steel. Next point. Silence. Tom adjusted his tie. There is no next point, Nathan. This is the point. You've missed 6 key meetings in 2 months. The media is spinning stories about instability in leadership. Investors are nervous. Nathan shrugged. Then let them be nervous. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Meeting adjourned. We're not finished, Patricia objected. Nathan turned back, voice calm but unyielding. Actually, we are. He grabbed his briefcase and started toward the door. The board is considering a vote of no confidence. Nathan froze mid-step. Slowly, he turned. Tom's voice was careful but firm. You built this company, Nathan, but lately you seem more interested in building something else. Nathan's jaw tightened. You mean my family? I mean a distraction, Tom corrected. Nathan walked back to the table, placing both hands on its polished surface. Let me be clear, he said, his voice even but sharp. Pierce Innovations is important to me, but if you force me to choose between my position here and my children. He leaned in slightly, holding their gazes one by one. You won't like the outcome. Tom stiffened. Is that a threat? Nathan straightened, adjusting his cufflinks. It's a promise. The room was deathly silent. I hold majority shares, he reminded them. I can dissolve this board with a single vote. Patricia shuffled her papers nervously. That would tank the stock price completely. Nathan checked his watch. Then don't make me choose. He turned, striding toward the door. Where are you going? Tom called after him. Nathan didn't stop. I have a parent-teacher conference at 3. And with that, he left them in stunned silence. Nathan loosened his tie, exhaling slowly as he sat in his car. His phone screen flashed with 3 missed calls from investors, 2 from the PR team and 1 from Charlotte. Ignoring the first 5, he called Charlotte back. How was the meeting? She asked the moment she picked up. Nathan ran a hand over his face. About as well as expected. Her voice softened. The boys are anxious to show you their grades. Even Daniel got an A in PE. Nathan smiled, already feeling the tension from the boardroom fade. Tell him I'm on my way. He ended the call, catching his reflection in the rearview mirror. The man staring back wasn't the same one who had invited his ex-wife to his wedding 2 months ago. That man would have chosen work without hesitation. This one? He didn't even have to think about it. Dad, watch this. Thomas teetered precariously on a skateboard. Careful. Nathan lunged forward as Thomas wobbled, but Michael was already there, steadying his brother with an exasperated sigh. He never listens, Michael muttered, sounding exactly like Charlotte. They were in Nathan's backyard, now transformed with a treehouse under construction, 3 identical bikes, and enough sports equipment to rival a gym. Daniel, meanwhile, sat cross-legged on the grass, alternating between reading and watching his brothers. Dad, Daniel called, eyes gleaming. Can you explain quantum entanglement? After he explains why my code isn't working, Thomas interrupted, abandoning his skateboard. After he helps me with my science project, Michael countered. Nathan blinked, overwhelmed, but in the best possible way. One at a time. He pointed at Thomas. Show me the code. They huddled around Thomas's laptop, foreheads bent together. Nathan scanned the screen, pointed out a missing semicolon, explained a logic error, and watched as Thomas's face lit up when the program finally ran. Now quantum entanglement? Daniel asked hopefully. Science project first, Michael insisted. It's due tomorrow. Nathan frowned. Tomorrow? Why didn't you mention it earlier? Michael hesitated before mumbling. You had that big investor meeting. Nathan's stomach twisted. They hadn't wanted to bother him. He knelt down, meeting Michael's gaze. Hey, nothing is more important than helping you, understood? The 3 boys nodded, but Nathan caught the skeptical glances they exchanged. They were keeping score, just like he used to with his own father. New rule. Nathan straightened. No more tiptoeing around my schedule. If you need me, you tell me. Deal? Deal, Thomas high-fived him. Even at 3 a.m.? Daniel asked seriously. Nathan smiled. Even at 3 a.m., Michael arched a brow. Mom says you used to work until 3 a.m., Nathan chuckled. She's right, but things change. People change. His phone buzzed, another board member demanding attention. Nathan silenced it without looking. All right, Daniel, quantum entanglement, think of it like 3 brothers. They spent the afternoon bouncing between coding, physics, and Michael's volcano project. By the time Charlotte arrived to pick them up, she found all 4 of them covered in baking soda and vinegar. The volcano worked, Michael announced proudly. Eventually, Thomas added. After the 3rd explosion, Daniel clarified. Charlotte raised an eyebrow at Nathan's ruined shirt. He smirked, mouthing, worth it. She laughed, and for the first time in years, Nathan saw the way she used to look at him, before Pierce Innovations, before his obsession with success. When understanding replaced disappointment, Mr. Pierce, these documents require your immediate attention. Nathan's lawyer spread out several pages on his home office desk. Nathan barely glanced at the first one before raising an eyebrow. Trust funds? Standard procedure in high-net-worth situations. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. We've drafted separate trusts for each boy, accessible at age 25. Nathan shook his head. Make it 21. The lawyer hesitated. Sir, given the amount. They're responsible kids. Nathan's voice was firm. He thought of Michael's careful planning, Thomas's relentless curiosity, Daniel's quiet intelligence. They weren't just trust fund kids. They were his kids. And it was time they knew exactly how much that meant. Nathan sat back in his chair, staring at the papers in front of him. Company shares, split equally, 1/3 to each of his sons. The lawyer hesitated. Mr. Pierce, that's nearly 40% of Pierce Innovations. Nathan didn't blink. Good thing they're getting an early start in coding then. Without hesitation, he picked up his pen and signed. A throat cleared from the doorway. Victoria. She stood there, elegant as always, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. So it's true. Her voice was calm, but sharp. You're giving away your legacy. Nathan exhaled. Here we go. Victoria. I came to return some things. She dropped a small box onto his desk, remnants of a life they had almost built together. I heard you were restructuring the company. She picked up one of the trust documents. Now I see why. The lawyer took that as his cue to leave. I'll have these processed immediately. Once they were alone, Victoria scanned the page in her hands. Billions in assets. Just like that. Nathan met her gaze. They're my children. Her jaw tightened. They're strangers who share your DNA. She tossed the paper down. The board called me. They're worried you're having some sort of breakdown. Nathan let out a low laugh. Because I'm being a father? Because you're dismantling everything you built. Nathan stood, placing his hands on the desk. Victoria, the man you knew measured his worth in stock prices and acquisition deals. His voice softened. And now? Now I measure it in science projects and soccer games. For the first time, Victoria faltered. She studied him, really looking at him for the first time in weeks. You really have changed, Nathan nodded. For the better, I hope. She sighed, lifting the box. At the door she hesitated. Those boys, they'd better be worth it. Nathan thought of Michael's protective instincts, Thomas's fearless creativity, Daniel's quiet wisdom, of missed birthdays, lost time, and the future moments he refused to miss. They are. And for the first time, he meant it. The boys still up? Nathan asked as he dialed Charlotte's number. She laughed. Trying to hack the school's grading system. Want to guess which one? Nathan smirked. Tell Thomas it's unethical. Tell him yourself. You're still coming to dinner, right? Nathan glanced at his desk. Trust documents, company papers, decisions about money, power, and legacy. None of it mattered. Wouldn't miss it. The scent of lasagna hit him the moment he stepped into Charlotte's house, his new favorite meal. Turns out the boys had inherited his ridiculous appetite. He barely had time to take off his coat before Thomas came barreling down the stairs. Dad, I fixed that bug in the app. Nathan raised a brow. The scheduling one? Thomas froze. No, the one that kept crashing when... He cleared his throat. The completely theoretical app we definitely aren't developing for fun. Charlotte rolled her eyes, fighting a smile. At least he comes by the rule-breaking honestly. Before Nathan could respond, Michael appeared, clipboard in hand. Dad, can you sign this? It's for the robotics competition. Nathan reached for a pen. The one next month? Michael frowned. Next week. He crossed his arms. I told you 3 times. Nathan's stomach dropped. The board meeting. Silence settled over the room. Daniel, who had just joined them, exchanged glances with his brothers. It's okay, Michael said quickly. Mom can go. Nathan didn't hesitate. He grabbed his phone, fired off a quick text. Meeting rescheduled. He set the phone down. What time should I be there? Michael blinked. 9 a.m. We're in the second round. A slow grin spread across his face. Then I'll be there at 8:30. Michael's eyes lit up. Really? Really? During dinner, Nathan watched the effortless rhythm between Charlotte and the boys. The inside jokes, the quick, teasing remarks, the silent conversations between them, the kind that only came from years of knowing each other inside out, the life he had missed. Charlotte caught him staring. You're quiet. Nathan shook his head, helping her with the dishes. Just thinking, she smirked. Dangerous subject. Nathan exhaled. I missed so much. Charlotte handed him a dish towel, her expression unreadable. You're here now? And for the first time, he believed that was enough. Nathan handed Charlotte a plate, the warmth of the moment settling between them like an unspoken truth. First words, first steps. He exhaled, shaking his head. I missed so much. Charlotte gave him a small smile. You're here now. Nathan let out a quiet laugh. Thanks to your spite-fueled wedding RSVP. She smirked. Not my finest moment. Not my finest perfect. Nathan dried his hands, glancing toward the living room where the sounds of bickering filled the air. You knew exactly what you were doing. Charlotte leaned against the counter. I knew you needed to see them to understand. From the next room, Michael's voice rang out. Dad, come settle this. Thomas is cheating again. Am not, Thomas protested. R2. Nathan and Charlotte exchanged a knowing look. Duty calls. She nudged him toward the chaos. Nathan walked toward his sons, toward the life he should have chosen years ago. Better late than never. Nathan sat in his doctor's office, staring at the MRI results. The words blurred. Aggressive. 6 months. Limited options. The world tilted. Mr. Pierce, Dr. Roberts said gently. Do you want me to go over the treatment options again? Nathan folded the papers carefully. No, I understand. He walked to his car in a daze. 3 months ago, he thought the headaches were stress, the dizziness, just overwork. His phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Beat Tommy at chess again. When are you coming over? Nathan pulled over, gripping the steering wheel. How do you tell 3 10-year-old boys that the father they just got to know is leaving? He hit call. Charlotte answered on the first ring. Nathan, aren't you supposed to be at? I need to see you. His voice cracked. Without the boys. A pause. Then, meet me at the cafe near your office. 20 minutes later, Charlotte took one look at his face and ordered them both strong coffee. How bad? She asked quietly. Nathan slid the papers across the table. She read them, her hands shaking. 6 months? Her voice cracked. If I'm lucky. Charlotte pressed her hands against her eyes. The boys. Nathan swallowed the lump in his throat. I know. His voice was hollow. I finally figured out how to be their father. And now, don't. She grabbed his hand, gripping it tight. Don't you dare give up. I'm not giving up, Charlotte. He met her gaze. I'm being realistic. He pulled out another folder. Updated trust funds. Guardianship papers. Charlotte's face twisted in anger. Stop it. They need to be taken care of. His grip tightened around hers. They need their mother. They need their father. Her voice broke. Nathan took a shaky breath. You've always been enough. Charlotte wiped at her eyes. How do we tell them? Together. His voice was firm, like we should have done everything from the start. His phone buzzed again. Thomas this time. Daniel says quantum entanglement isn't like triple telepathy. You promised to explain. Nathan stared at the message, feeling the weight of time pressing against him. Too much wasted. Too little left. Tonight, he decided. We tell them tonight. Charlotte nodded, her shoulders trembling as she wiped her tears. They're stronger than we think. Nathan managed a weak smile. Of course they are. They sat there in silence, 2 parents bound by love for 3 boys who deserved more time than life was willing to give. Nathan thought of all the moments he would miss. Graduations, first dates, college acceptance letters, and all the ones he still had. He had today. It would have to be enough. Nathan sat at his desk that night. He racked 3 leather-bound journals spread before him. The medication made his hands shake, but he forced himself to write clearly. Dear Michael, he began in the first book. You are the protector, the one who makes sure your brothers eat their vegetables and finish their homework. Just like I watched you catch Thomas before he fell off his skateboard. Just like I see you watching out for Daniel when he gets lost in his books. Nathan swallowed hard, gripping the pen tighter. You remind me of myself, always trying to be strong for everyone. But Michael, it's okay to lean on others too, to ask for help. Someday you'll be the man of the house, but not yet, not today. For now, just be a kid. Play soccer, read your books, and know that I am so proud of you. Nathan blinked rapidly, pushing down the tightness in his chest. He turned to the second journal. Dear Thomas. His hand trembled, but he kept writing. He owed them this. He owed them every word. Every single one. Nathan took a shaky breath, steadying his spinning head as he flipped to a new page. The doctors had given him 4 months, maybe less. He intended to use every minute. In the second journal, he scrawled, Dear Thomas, your mind moves faster than the world around you, always spotting patterns others miss. But what makes you different, what makes you remarkable, is that you have something I never did. the courage to put people before ambition. The third journal was the hardest. Dear Daniel, your curiosity reminds me of your mother. The way you question everything, search for answers beyond the surface. The way you refuse to accept the world at face value. Each book filled with something different. For Michael, leadership lessons he had learned too late. For Thomas, the real stories behind his victories and failures. For Daniel, the scientific principles that had guided his life. Between writing sessions, Nathan poured everything into his time with them. He taught Michael chess strategies, debugged code with Thomas, discussed physics with Daniel. Charlotte stood by, phone in hand, capturing every moment. For later, she'd whisper. The boys knew he was sick. They had taken it better than expected, channeling their energy into research, arguing with doctors, challenging statistics. We're not giving up, Michael insisted daily. There's always a solution. Thomas added. Probabilities aren't certainties, Daniel pointed out. Nathan smiled at their brilliance, at their relentless belief in solving the impossible. Through the sleepless nights when the pain was unbearable, he wrote, Remember the day we built that volcano? Your first robotics competition? The time you tried to hack my phone? Each memory preserved, each lesson passed down. In the margins, he sketched diagrams, coded simple programs, mapped out wisdom he had learned too late. And in each journal he wrote, Success isn't measured in wealth or titles, it's measured in moments like these. The journals grew thicker. His hands grew weaker. But the words kept coming, for his sons, for their future, for all the conversations they would never get to have. Charlotte adjusted Nathan's tie, her hands gentle yet firm. Ready for this? He nodded, conserving his energy. 3 months had passed since the diagnosis. Today was Michael's second robotics competition, and his team had made it to the finals. The boys are already there, Charlotte said, straightening his jacket. Michael's nervous. Nathan's lips curled into a tired but genuine smile. He shouldn't be. He's brilliant. The school gymnasium buzzed with energy. Excited voices filled the air, but Nathan only saw them. His sons, hunched over their robot, making last-minute adjustments. Dad. They rushed to him, careful with their hugs. Since his last hospital stay, they had grown fiercely protective of him. How's our champion? Nathan asked. The servo motors are acting up, Thomas reported before Michael could answer. The calculations are solid, though, Daniel added. Nathan studied the robot. His hands shook too much to help, but his mind was still sharp. There, he pointed, voice steady despite the fatigue. The connection's loose. Thomas fixed it quickly, and the robot hummed to life. 2 minutes till start, the announcer called. Michael turned to his mother. Mom, can Dad stay until the end? Charlotte met Nathan's gaze. They both knew he should be resting. Nathan straightened his shoulders. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. The competition was intense. Round after round, Michael's team advanced, and Nathan watched as his son led with confidence, handled setbacks with grace, and celebrated victories with humility. Then came the final match. The entire gymnasium fell silent. Their robot performed flawlessly. And when the winner was announced, when Michael's team was declared champions, Nathan cheered the loudest, despite his weakness. Michael ran straight to him, trophy in hand, beaming. Dad, we did it. Nathan's smile was full of pride, his voice soft but strong. No, son, you did it, all of you. Later that night, Nathan sat on the couch, watching his sons celebrate, watching their laughter, their energy, their boundless joy. Charlotte caught his eye from across the room. She knew. Time was slipping away. But for now, they had this moment. And that would have to be enough. Nathan's gaze lingered on his sons, their laughter filling the room, their voices overlapping in excitement. He felt it deep in his bones. He wouldn't have enough time. Charlotte must have sensed it too. She reached for his hand, her voice barely above a whisper. No regrets? Nathan's lips curled into a small, tired smile. Just one, he admitted, watching Michael tease Thomas over a game. Daniel lost in thought as usual, not having more time. Charlotte squeezed his hand gently. You've given them everything they need. And he had. The journals he left behind, the lessons, the memories, the love etched into every page, they would guide his sons long after he was gone. Almost everything. He whispered the words, but as he watched his boys, Michael's natural leadership, Thomas's relentless innovation, Daniel's quiet genius, he knew Charlotte was right. They would be okay. Because they were his legacy, his greatest achievement, his most perfect code. Years later, Sarah sat on the familiar back porch, watching three 15-year-old boys huddled over their laptops in the treehouse. The structure Nathan had started building for them years ago was long finished, now repurposed as their personal tech lab. "Mom," Thomas called down, excitement crackling in his voice. "We found another one." She climbed up carefully, ducking under the wooden entrance where they had carved Mitchell Brothers Tech Lab. Inside, three identical grins greeted her. "Look." Michael pointed at his screen. It was hidden in Dad's old programming. Lines of code filled the screen, but within them, a carefully hidden message appeared. "Remember, success without family is just numbers on a screen." Daniel read the words aloud, his voice steady but full of emotion. Sarah's fingers brushed over the worn leather journal in her lap, one of three Nathan had left behind for them. The boys still read them often, and as they grew, they found new meaning in their father's words. "He would be so proud of you." "He is." She wasn't sure which one of them whispered it, but she knew it was true. Michael was already class president, accepted into MIT. Thomas had just won his third national coding championship. Daniel's research paper on quantum physics had caught the attention of CERN. But more importantly, they were good people, kind, compassionate, always looking out for one another. "Hey, Mom?" Thomas looked up from his screen, smirking. "Remember when Dad first showed up at our house with that wedding invitation?" Sarah chuckled, shaking her head. "Best mistake he ever made." Michael grinned. "Definitely." Daniel closed his laptop, a thoughtful look in his eyes. "Do you think he knew? At the end, I mean, how much he changed our lives." Sarah thought back to Nathan's final days, how he had insisted on attending every school event, recording every moment, writing until his hands couldn't hold a pen anymore. "He knew," she said softly. Then, after a pause, "and you changed his life too." The boys returned to their coding, three heads bent together. Just like always. Through the treehouse window, Sarah glanced outside. She saw the garden where Nathan had once taught them how to plant seeds, the patio where they had built that exploding volcano, and the spot where he had last hugged them goodbye. Their time together had been brief, but it had been perfect, just like he coded it. Thank you for following along. If this story touches your heart, let us know in the comments. What would you do if you were in Nathan's shoes? Rate this story on a scale of 1 to 10, or share your favorite moment below. Like and share to celebrate the love of family, the power of second chances, and the moments that truly define us. Stay tuned for more touching and inspiring stories.